The shocking truth. Insane mysteries of a Romanian village that haunted us at in the heart of a forgotten Romanian village, where the air is thick with ancient secrets and eerie shadows dance in the moonlight. A tale unfolds that will chill you to the bone. Imagine a place where the ground whispers, the trees seem alive, and every corner holds a story of the bizarre, waiting to claw its way into the light. They say that on moonless nights, the villagers hear cries echoing from the old chapel. A sound so agonizing it can freeze the blood in your veins, and yet, no one dares to investigate. What kind of horror hides in a place that brims with the strange and the supernatural? This village isn't just off the beaten path. It feels like it's trapped in time. Crumbling houses with cracked facades sit like ghosts along stray paths, their windows like dark eyes peering into the secrets you wish they wouldn't reveal. The villagers, too, hold their secrets close. They speak in hushed tones, casting wary glances as they recount tales of lost travelers who wandered too far into the surrounding woods only to vanish without a trace. Their voices tremble as they tell of a woman seen wandering the streets at dawn, her long hair flowing like black smoke, her eyes hollow, searching for something or someone she lost long ago. As the sun dipped beneath the horizon, the air grew thick with tension. Doors creaked open and shut. Whispers curled around you like the wind. Could they be warnings? Children gathered close to their mothers, faces pale with fear as they recounted the legend of the weeping woman. They said she steals away the souls of the unwary who stray into her sorrowful embrace, luring them deeper into the dark. Each day, one villager goes missing, an unsettling pattern that stirs panic in this already tight-knit community. Hey! Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As darkness draped its heavy cloak over the village, a curtain of mystery rolled in with it. There was a flickering light from the chapel, and it drew the eyes of the brave and the foolish alike. Was it a blessing, or a sinister lure, beckoning the desperate to their fate? All over town, people felt an ominous pull, a shared inclination to uncover the truth that lay hidden beneath layers of fear and superstition. With each heartbeat, the thrill mingled with dread, drawing them closer. Would they unravel the enigma, or would they fall prey to the horrors that stirred within the night? In this village, haunted by the whispers of the past and shadowed by its own shadows, the greatest mysteries are rarely left uncovered, and the midnight hour is approaching fast. The bell tolled ominously, echoing through the village like a death knell. Those who felt the weight of its sound could only shudder. A few brave souls began making their way toward the chapel, their footsteps hesitant and uneasy. It was as if the night itself held its breath, waiting for an answer to the terrible questions that plagued them. Baba Elena, the village elder, stood at the edge of a flickering lantern's glow, her face a craggy map of fear and concern. Do you truly wish to know what lies inside? She croaked, her voice barely above a whisper. The villagers exchanged uneasy glances. They craved the truth yet feared what the truth might unearth. As a group gathered, a young woman named Mara, her heart racing like a wild drum, stepped forward. We can't live in fear any longer, she declared, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. I will go. The silence hung heavy as she faced the darkness leading to the chapel. Her resolve surprised even her, but the thought of the weeping woman, the stories that haunted her childhood, dared her to step past the threshold of cowardice and confront what lay hidden in shadows. The group followed, a hesitant parade into the abyss, each heartbeat pounding in unison. The path ahead twisted through gnarled trees, their branches clawing at the sky. The light from the chapel wavered against the oppressive grip of night, drawing them inexorably near. With every step, dread coiled tighter around their throats, but the flickering glow compelled them onward. Then came the cries, a piercing wail that cut through the night like a razor. It echoed from the chapel, rising and falling like a heartbeat. They halted, paralyzed by fear. What horrors awaited them inside those ancient walls? Did the cries belong to the lost souls who had vanished, or was it a trap, an invitation from the weeping woman herself? Suddenly, Mara's voice broke through the tension, revealing the fear simmering beneath her bravery. What if it's something we cannot face? What if we can't come back? A murmur of agreement spread through the group. Each had their own hauntings, their own fears. The village had become a cemetery for their souls, a place where hope had withered. Yet, a darker thought loomed. Baba Elena's look of foreboding pierced through their uncertainty. She whispered, "The woman she seeks, one of you." The air grew cold, forming a thick barrier around them, urging them to flee from the chapel's beckoning glow. But still, there was something magnetic about that flicker of light. It thrummed with a pulse, nearly alive in its desperation. The group, torn between the urge to run and the need to understand, hesitated before the chapel's door. Taking a deep breath, Mara reached out to grasp the weathered handle, her body trembling. As the door creaked open, the light spilled out like a flood, illuminating a scene none of them could have anticipated. Within was a vision so haunting, so surreal it twisted the very fabric of their reality. Faces twisted in agonized expressions gazed back at them, as if frozen in time. What had they walked into? And why did the cries now sound like familiar voices? The figures intertwined in shadow and light seemed to pull Mara closer, whispering secrets only she could hear. In that instant, the truth shattered, leaving them hanging between the unknown and the unthinkable. What was their fate in this haunted chapel? The moment felt suspended, swallowed by fear. Would they find the answers they sought, or only expose themselves to a far grimmer destiny? And what price would they pay to uncover the horrifying reality lurking in the dark? Their minds raced, heartbeats thundering in sync as the shadows began to swirl around them. The truth was close, almost within their grasp. But as cold fingers grazed their skin, they came to a horrifying realization. What if the weeping woman was not a legend, but a truth they could never escape? Their breath ceased. As they teetered on the edge of discovery, the next choice loomed, and the chilling question echoed. Could they bear what they would find? The moment Mara stepped over the threshold, the once flickering light transformed into a blinding halo, illuminating faces that had once been lost to legends, faces that twisted into anguished expressions, their mouths moving soundlessly in unison. In that instant, she felt their pain, raw and unbearable. Each cry pressed against her chest like a weight she couldn't ignore. Behind her, the villagers gasped, their fear palpable. They crowded at the door, paralyzed in terror. Mara took a trembling step forward. What do you want from us?" she stammered, the words barely escaping her lips. Suddenly, an ear-piercing screech cut through the silence, causing everyone to flinch. The shadows danced wildly, revealing a dark figure emerging from among the lost souls, a silhouette draped in a flowing black gown, her face obscured by a veil that shimmered as if woven from nightmares. The weeping woman. Mara's instincts screamed at her to run, to flee back into the safety of the night. But she stood rooted, eyes locked on the figure, feeling a strange connection, as if the woman could see deep into her soul. The cries swelled around her, becoming a symphony of sorrow, somehow echoing her own unvoiced regrets. "Help us!" the lost souls chorused, their voices intertwining in a haunting melody. "Free us!" Mara's heart raced. Were they asking for salvation? Or were they drawing her deeper into their sorrow? The air grew thick with longing and despair. The room felt alive, pulsing with emotions that clawed at her edges, unraveling her courage. "What did you do?" whispered a familiar voice from the back. A friend Mara had lost long ago to the darkness of the village. The shock washed over her like ice water, and she turned slowly to see Alina's wide eyes glistening with tears. She shook her head in disbelief, struggling to grasp the enormity of her situation. Realization washed over her. The weeping woman had claimed the souls of the lost, including Alina's. Each ghost hovered like an echo of a life once lived, their sorrow coiling around her like a serpent, and she suddenly felt the weight of their pain like a heavy cloak. "Tell them." The weeping woman's voice dripped through the silence, her tones syrupy and chilling. "You carry their secrets. You know their stories. Speak and break the curse." Mara trembled. Secrets? The village's shadows cloaked in whispers of judgment, betrayal, and fear. They now simmered back to the surface. She could feel the pressure building inside her, memories clawing for release. What had she buried so deep, and could she ever expose it without risking everything? As she hesitated, would revealing the truth free them, or condemn her, along with the whole village? The weight of responsibility teetered over her shoulders like a heavy stone as fear mingled with a flicker of hope. "It's not just me. We're all responsible." The villagers stirred behind her, murmurs of guilt and anger bouncing off the walls of the chapel. "Then let them speak." The weeping woman's voice echoed, laced with urgency. "Only together can you unearth the darkness." With a sweeping movement, she pointed toward the others, shadows swirling and beckoning. The villagers were frozen, their eyes wide with horror and their breaths uneven. Mara turned back to the spectral faces, pressing her hands to her heart. "We will tell our stories," she declared, her voice rising above the cries. "We will face the darkness together." In that moment, a sudden hush fell upon the chaotic scene. The shadows flickered and quivered as hope pierced the despair. A glimmer of light began to seep through the darkness, but within that light, a new fear emerged, a jolting realization of the truth impending. Would the revelations bind the village together, or would it tear them apart, exposing secrets best left buried? As Mara stepped forward again, ready to embrace her role, she caught a glimpse of the weeping woman's eyes, smoldering with an unfathomable depth. In that depth, she saw the darkness mirrored within herself. What secrets did she truly carry? And as the whispers of the lost began to rise once more, the palpable tension spiraled around them, plunging every heart into uncertainty and dread. What truths would emerge when the stories were finally told? Mara's heart thudded in her chest, a rhythmic drum of fear and adrenaline. The weeping woman's presence amplified the unease rippling through the villagers, holding them in a vice grip of collective dread. The stained glass windows cast eerie patterns on the dusty floor, fragments of color battling against the all-consuming darkness. "Speak," the weeping woman commanded again, her voice a ghostly whisper laced with ancient authority. "It is the only way." The words hung heavily in the air, dense with expectation. Mara felt the heat of the villagers' eyes digging into her back. They were looking to her for courage, yet all she felt was the tight squeeze of anxiety in her throat. Together she repeated, her voice wavering, "We have to face our past." The words felt like stones tumbling from her mouth. She stepped backward, glancing at Alina, whose face now mirrored her own feelings, fear entwined with deep sorrow. "What should we say?" croaked old Goran, his voice trembling as he stepped forward. "How do we bring back those we have lost?" Mara closed her eyes for a moment, desperate to harness the power of the moment. "We speak our secrets," she urged. "We free ourselves from this burden. It starts with me, it starts with all of us." Around the room, people shuffled, glancing nervously at one another. The weight of their silence felt unbearable, stifling the light that had begun to seep through. "Let me go first," said Irina, a timid voice from the back of the crowd. With shaking hands, she moved into the open space. "Years ago, I betrayed my sister for the man I loved. I thought it was passion, but it was greed. She was lost to the woods, swallowed by shadows and cries. She choked on her breath. I never searched for her. I let fear win." The moment hung thick, the room absorbing her confession. Mara could feel the other villagers shift uncomfortably, shadows whispering of buried truths. "I am guilty too," piped up Elias, the village butcher. "I hid a crime, the death of a traveler. I feared the law, and in my silence, I became complicit in darkness." Gasps echoed through the chapel, punctuated by the weeping woman's chilling sigh. Mara watched as the lost souls turned their hollow eyes to Elias, absorbing his words like blood-soaked ink, staining their existence with the truth laid bare. Mara's stomach churned. Would these confessions unearth more than just guilt? Would the rumors that had plagued their lives turn into monstrous revelations? Her pulse raced as Goran stepped forward next. His shoulders slumped. I turned my back when a neighbor needed help. A life was lost because of my choice. He whispered, shame weaving through each syllable. The air crackled with energy, a surge of revelation washing over the villagers. Mara felt the tremors of their emotions flowing together. Guilt peeled away the layers hiding their fears, exposing raw humanity. Yet, through the mingled pain, a chilling voice rose through the whispers, a broken melody that sent a shiver down her spine. Speak my name, it crooned, a dark refrain enveloping them. The weeping woman lifted her veiled face slightly, shadowy eye sockets glinting with the moonlight that broke through the windows. You know who I am. You know who suffers. Mara's breath caught in her throat, flashes of memories rising like bile. The villagers hesitated, the weight of their stories growing heavier. They looked to her, urging her to free them from the grip of the woman whose sorrow mirrored their own. What would you do, Mara? Alina's voice broke through the tension, her eyes pleading. Are we prepared to share our darkest truths? Mara asked aloud, her senses on high alert. Each confession would unveil a deeper wound, exposing the raw underbelly of their fears. But what if those truths summoned something darker? Something that could claw its way out of the shadows? As the weight of silence pressed down, a shudder of anticipation mixed with dread nestled in Mara's chest. It was time to plunge deeper. Would they find liberation, or would the darkness pull them all under? A cold wind swept through, flickering the lights once more. Shadows danced around them as they stood on the precipice of revelation. What ancient secrets were intertwined with the weeping woman, and what price would they pay to uncover their ghosts? The air was thick with promise, tension palpable. With bated breath, the village awaited Mara's answer. What would she choose to reveal, and who would be lost in the process? Mara's heart raced as she took a step forward, feeling the weight of the villagers' eyes pressing down on her. The whispers around her faded into a low hum, drowned out by her own thoughts swirling in panic. What was it I had hidden? She questioned herself, teetering on the edge of revelation. Would she expose the truth that had haunted her for years? She started, but the words caught like thorns in her throat. The chilling presence of the weeping woman loomed over them, suffused with an ethereal darkness that seemed to wrap around Mara like a shroud. The only thing audible was the shivering breath of the villagers, their anticipation sickening. Speak, the weeping woman urged, her voice twisting like the wind of a storm. You know it will set you free or condemn you forever. Mara swallowed hard, the lump in her throat burning. I remember, she finally managed, the night of the festival 10 years ago I made a choice. Her voice trembled, vibrating with every syllable, laced with a fear that clawed at her lungs. I didn't stop it. I didn't intervene when I saw them take him. Gasps filled the room, eyes widening. The memory flooded back her brother, Tomas, vibrant with laughter, dancing amidst flickering lights. She had seen the shadows, tugging him away, yet she stood frozen, paralyzed by her own cowardice. The tears had formed in his eyes then. An unspeakable dread etched on his face as he disappeared into the night. I was scared, Mara admitted, her voice breaking. I was scared of losing him, scared of facing whatever darkness lurked out there. But now the weight of her confession settled over her like a blanket of ice. Now I carry that darkness with me. Alina stepped closer, her hand trembling on Mara's shoulder. Mara, you're not alone, she cried, desperation mingling with hope. We all share in this burden. The villagers murmured in agreement, fists clenching and releasing, as if they fought against their own shadows. Suddenly, a chilling wail echoed around them, a sound so piercing it halted their breaths. The weeping woman began to sway, the fabric of her veil billowing like smoke. Do you hear them? She whispered, her voice now a terrifying lullaby. They cry for justice, for vengeance. Your silence has fed their suffering until now. Mara's stomach twisted at the thought of the lost. What if admitting our guilt brings them back? She asked, a desperate plea that hung in the air. With every answer, They risked invoking deeper horrors. Was it the truth they sought or something more destructive? As her heart pounded loudly against her ribs, Elias stepped up, eyes wild in fervor. "I'll go next," he shouted, voice trembling, driven by a burst of newfound courage. "I didn't just hide a crime, I was part of it. I rushed to silence a secret that could destroy us all. A traveler came to our door, and I felt nothing when the shadows made him disappear." His words tore through the room like a lightning strike. The weeping woman twisted her head to face him, her hollow eyes glinting with hunger. More confessions. She beckoned, her voice rising like an ominous storm. Mara's breath quickened. Their lives were unraveling, thread by thread. But with each knot loosed, the danger grew like a thick fog. Would they find redemption, or was this the point of no return? I don't know if I can bear any more," Mara whispered, her eyes darting around the room, fear gripping her heart. What would her part in this reveal? Would others gain the strength to face their demons, or would the weeping woman feast on their sins until all was lost? Tension thickened the air, and the fabric of their community was ripping apart at the seams. What lay ahead? Were more horrors ready to emerge as they faced their twisted fates? "Speak," the weeping woman demanded again, sharp as knives. "The time is now. Will you stand in the light or remain in shadows?" Mara looked at her neighbors, faces etched with fear, and felt a sense of foreboding settle in her gut. Whispers of long-buried secrets hung chillingly in the air, and she realized that with each disclosure, they crawled closer to understanding the legacy of their pain, a truth no one was quite ready to embrace. What ancient horror awaited them on the other side of confession? The room was suffocating. The shadows clung to Mara, wrapping around her like a relentless vice, squeezing tighter with each admission. The villagers' faces morphed into masks of terror, their gazes darting to Elias, who stood frozen in his revelation. "Can you hear them?" he gasped, panting as if the crowd's ghostly whispers were choking him. "The lost ones, they want us to pay. They want to drag us down into the darkness." The weeping woman's lips curled into a sinister smile, revealing a bleak satisfaction. "Yes, they await, and you, dear Elias, have offered them both a banquet and a betrayal." Her voice coiled around the room as if feeding off their fear. Mara shivered. The grip of terror tightened around her heart. The weight of their buried sins was becoming unbearable. Every breath she took felt heavy, the air thick with distrust and dread. "If we share our truths, will we be free?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper, yet it rang loud in the unsettling silence. "Freedom is an illusion," the weeping woman responded, her eyes gleaming with malevolence. "You may find release, but your shadows will not vanish so easily. They hunger for more." Mara's pulse quickened. Would confessing truly unshackle them, or was it merely a trap to bind them further? The villagers stood rooted, their breaths shallow, faces pale, each one wrestling with their own secrets, begging for release. Abruptly, a young woman named Sophia stepped forward, her hands shaking at her sides. "I too have guilt," she rasped, and the words tumbled out like a dam breaking. "The promise I made, I broke it. Last winter, I was afraid of losing my child to the cold, so I took a life for warmth." Gasps erupted as the villagers recoiled, the horror of her confession slicing through the air like a knife. The weeping woman's expression twisted into one of delight. Perfect, a sacrifice, and yet more souls lost. Her voice dripped with cruel joy. Mara's stomach churned at the thought. Who could have believed the depths of despair would drive someone to such atrocity? The condemnation hung around them all, thick enough to slice. What had they done? What sacrifices had they made, and at what cost? "Do you see?" the weeping woman crooned, her presence winding through the hall like smoke. "Each confession binds you closer to them. Your darkness festers and grows, as they await an embrace." Panic surged within Mara. The festival night replayed in her mind. The laughter, the music, and then the shadows. "No," she cried out, tears spilling down her cheeks. "This cannot be what we face. We need to unite, not fall apart." But it was Alina who stepped forward next, her eyes brimming with defiance. I refuse to live in this fear. I will say shhhh. The weeping woman raised a finger, silencing Alina. Not yet. Your trespasses haven't been fully measured. Suddenly, the lights flickered ominously, plunging the room into shadows. The villagers gaped around in panic, fear rising to a fevered pitch as a voice echoed from the depths of the darkness. What are you hiding? What will your silence bring? It was a voice from a forgotten memory. Tomas, Mara whispered involuntarily, the connection triggering terror and hope intertwined. The weeping woman laughed softly, but it held no warmth. Every choice creates a path, my dear villagers. Will you brave the true terror of your past? The weight of their silence threatened to crack them like glass. Would they speak? Would they cower in the silence of shadows, forever haunted by the memories of what they had lost? Just as the tension peaked, Mara's eyes shot toward the door, which rattled as if something wanted in. The villagers gasped. Chaos erupted, panic seeping into every heart. What now? Someone shouted. What does this mean? The weeping woman's smile widened, predatory and expectant. The calm before the storm, she whispered, her gaze shifting toward the door. And perhaps a new confession awaits to reveal itself. As the door creaked open, the oppressive weight began to tremble, a cold wind seeping into the room. What awaited them outside? Would it be death or deliverance? Mara's heart thundered as she steeled herself against the mystery that sought to consume them. As the door creaked further open, the cold wind swept into the room, swirling around the villagers like a phantom waltz. Gasps echoed, the sound mingling with the chill, deepening the atmosphere of dread. The weeping woman remained motionless, eyes gleaming in anticipation, her smile unyielding, reflecting a kind of dark ecstasy. Mara's heart raced as a shadow emerged from the threshold. A figure, hunched and cloaked in darkness, stepped forward. The light from the room barely touched the edges of its form, yet the air thickened with an unmistakable aura of malevolence. Who dares to enter? Came the raspy voice, reverberating like an echo from another realm. Tremors shook the villagers. Hands found each other in frantic grips, unspoken fears fusing them closer. Mara strained her eyes to catch a glimpse of the newcomer. Tomas, she called, her voice desperate yet wavering. The figure hesitated, the shadows cloaking it twisting eerily as if to mock her call. You still believe, Mara? It whispered, and its tone whipped around her, cold and taunting. Believe in the safety of truth? Or do you fear what it might bring? No, she shouted, her own torment spilling into her words. I refuse to let fear dictate my life. The darkness roiled, seeming to laugh at her. A cacophony of whispers emanating from the shadows, each voice laced with sorrow and anger. Fear is the only truth left suddenly. The figure lunged forward, casting off its cloak to reveal a face that twisted Mara's stomach. It was not Tomas. It was a grisly outline of all they had wronged, a face pieced together from the fragments of lost souls, a terrifying reminder of the village's betrayals. It wore sorrow like a shroud, eyes hollowing into her, pulling her to the brink of despair. Do you see the reflections of your sins? It bellowed, the voice ringing out like thunder. The echoes of laughter turned to screams. The sanctity of life surrendered for a moment's reprieve. Mara staggered back, her breath hitching in her throat. We can change. We can face this together. The weeping woman stepped forward, her presence a dark anchor. But can you? Look around you, sweet villagers. What binds you is stronger than unity. It is fear, guilt, and now their wrath. A villager named Jonah crumpled under the weight of realization. By hiding our secrets, we offered them power. His voice trembled, eyes darting to the restless shadows now swirling in a frenzy. What have we done? The weeping woman chuckled softly, the sound dripping with malice. Each of you has sown your seeds of destruction. You will reap what you've buried and hidden. A chorus of anguished cries erupted as more spectral figures emerged from the shadows behind her, faces twisted in pain and betrayal. Join us, they whispered, reaching out with ghostly hands. No, Mara cried, the knot of despair tightening around her. We have to fight back. together. But as she spoke, doubt settled like dust. Would they unite against the darkness? Or would the hidden truths tear them apart? The sinister whispers grew louder, drowning Mara's plea, infecting her resolve. Suddenly, the lights flickered again, plunging them deeper into darkness. Then silence, a heartbeat of stillness pregnant with dread. Mara. A soft voice pierced the void, familiar yet foreign. It was Tomas. You have to choose now. Could she stand against the tide of betrayal and fear? As a rush of freezing air swirled around her, she felt herself pushed, pulled toward making a decision that could either doom them or lead to their redemption. Would she take the first step into the abyss, or fight to uncover the truth, no matter the cost? And as the moment hung in the balance, a new truth stirred in the air, promising revelations and consequences yet unseen. The silence was deafening, the weight of indecision hanging like an anchor around Mara's neck. She could feel the eyes of the villagers boring into her, searching for a spark of hope in her expression. But all she felt was an icy grip tightening around her heart. Mara, choose. Tomas's voice cut through the darkness again, tinged with urgency. Are you going to let them consume us? Or will you face the truth? The shadows, buzzing with venomous whispers, clawed at her mind. They were real. The figures, twisted and anguished, lurked behind the weeping woman, their hollow eyes glistening with grief, a mosaic of betrayal stitched together in despair. Each face was a harrowing reminder of the sins buried deep, too painful to confront. Broken promises and stolen dreams danced around her, each taunt sliding under her skin. Stop, she yelled, her voice shaking with desperation. We have to fight. The words felt feeble against the overwhelming tide of darkness, yet they hung in the air like a flickering candle. The villagers stirred, their frightened murmurs rising like a fog through the chill. A trembling hand reached for Jonah S., his face pale but resolute. If we don't unite, we'll lose everything, he exclaimed, fear igniting a fire behind his eyes. Our families, our futures, all to the whispers of forgotten souls. But the weeping woman stepped forward, insistent and serpentine. Do you hear them, dear villagers? They seek to claw their way back from the void, to remind you of what you cast aside. You are not strong enough to face them. You are chains bound by your guilt. The villagers flinched, as if scorched. One by one, they shifted away from her, eyes fixating on Mara, hope draining like the last light of dusk. No, she screamed, rallying behind the weight of a new resolve. You are not chains. You are flesh and blood, bound by shared pain but not defeated by it. At her assertion, the specters shrieked in protest, their voices mingling in a ghastly chorus. You cannot change what you are. You cannot erase the past. Mara turned, forcing herself to meet their hollow gazes. We will remember. We will honor those lost by facing what we've done, not fearing the shadows. The shadows rippled, their sorrow transforming into an angry tempest. The weeping woman's smile erupted into a sneer, the scene around them pulsating with thick blackness. Facing the truth is a double-edged sword, dear one. Are you prepared to bear its weight? The air thrummed with tension, a challenge hanging over them like a guillotine. What had they buried? And would uncovering it lead to their salvation, or their destruction? Mara felt the pinch of uncertainty as sharp as a knife, but also the warmth of the hands gripping hers, steady and strong. Then, as if in answer, a blinding light surged from within. The villagers stepped closer, forming a circle around Mara, their breaths uniting in a steady rhythm. A low hum echoed, vibrating with raw determination. The warmth radiated, driving back the biting chill of despair. Mara, Jonah urged, his voice strong. Let us. We're standing with you. The shadows writhed in fury, just as a wail split the air, a harbinger of rage that shook the very walls of their sanctuary. The weeping woman's voice dripped with venom. You dare defy what is meant to consume you? You ask to walk toward the light as the darkness beckons? You are fools. But the villagers stood firm, a wall against the gathering storm. Just as their strength appeared tangible, the spectral figures surged forth, howling in fury, arms reaching out for them. Mara! The voices of the villagers mingled in a desperate plea, voices echoing the resilience that surged within her chest. What will we do? Mara's throat felt tight, but within that grip of dread flickered a stubborn ember of hope. She took a step forward, grasping tight to that flicker. We'll face it. Together. Yet doubt still loomed heavily. Hefting a darkness of its own, was their unity enough? Was she strong enough to uncover the truth that lurked in the shadows? Just as their breath synchronized, the air crackled with tension, and from the shadows, a familiar yet twisted face emerged. Mara gasped, as the last remnants of hope clashed against the reality of their pasts. Will you welcome me back? Or send me away like the others? It was Tomas, but different. Make your choice, dear Mara, he snarled, eyes burning with reckless urgency. Embrace what you fear. What will you do? With the ink of despair poised to flow anew, the choice morphed into uncertainty, beckoning her to leap into the unknown. Mara's heart raced as Tomas's figure twisted before her. A patchwork of memories and shadows frayed at the edges. His face, though recognizable, bore the marks of sorrow and vengeance, a reflection of the pain that haunted them all. The plea in his voice was almost lost in the wrathful chorus of ghostly whispers swirling in the air. What will you do? Join us, Tomas, she shouted, the words spilling from her like a lifeline. We can't let the past control us. We have to face it. But his laughter echoed hollow, chilling the air. Face it? Do you think that's enough? You think you're strong enough to bear the weight of our sins? The weeping woman extended her arms wide, inviting the darkness closer, urging them to surrender. You don't know the truth, little girl. This village is built on lies. Each of you is shackled by regret, despair, and betrayal. How can you hope to fight this? You're all broken. The villagers shivered, their fear palpable. Mara felt their pain sinking in like shards of ice, pulling at her resolve. Jonah, clutching her arm, whispered, we can't back down now. We need to stand together. She could see the hope in his eyes, a mirror of her own defiance. Together, Mara echoed fiercely. We are not broken. Every scar tells a story. We can rewrite them. The lights from their shared warmth flickered, a beacon battling against the encroaching shadows. But Tomas took a step forward, his face contorting in rage. You dare to say that? You think you're better than us, than me? You left me behind. Mara's stomach twisted. Guilt wrapped around her like a coiling snake. I never wanted that. I thought you thought nothing. He screeched, interrupting her. You think you can be our savior? You think they care about you? They want to torment you, make you regret every step you take. You awaken them. As those words dripped like poison, the edges of the shadows thickened, coiling menacingly around the villagers. They stepped back, trembling like leaves shaken by a storm. Mara, a woman near the front, cried out, confusion and dread lacing her voice. What if this is the truth? What if we can't change what has happened? Mara searched for strength in the faces around her. She could see their fear, their doubt, but also a flicker of faith just waiting to ignite. Listen, this darkness feeds off our guilt. It wants us to shatter, she implored, her voice rising above the chaos. We have to confront the past, not hide from it. At her words, the shadows shrieked, twisting into wild shapes as if communicating among themselves, plotting a counterattack. The weeping woman's eyes glimmered with malice. You speak of unity, yet how can you ever unite when your hearts are tainted with lies? Remember, Mara, each of you has blood on your hands. Can you all truly stand together? A chill ran through Mara. She knew too well the secrets that lay buried beneath the village, the transgressions that had bound them to this cursed past. What truths did she even dare to unearth? Her mind spiraled through images of families torn apart, of lives extinguished in desperation. Would they be able to carry that weight? The ground began to tremble. Shouts erupted, panic rising like a tsunami as the shadows made their move, drawing closer with insatiable hunger. A surge of desperation swept through her. We will face our truths, she bellowed, her voice snapping like a whip in the chaos. Whatever it takes. Suddenly, a deafening crash echoed through the space as the shadows lunged, overwhelming the radius of light that cocooned them. Mara stumbled back, her grip on Jonah slipping, as a terrifying wail erupted, growing louder with each passing instant. The weeping woman faced her, a twisted grin spreading across her pallid face. The truth is here, dear Mara. It's coming. Are you ready to embrace the darkness that is your legacy? Just as Mara thought all might be lost, she felt something press against her leg, a small, warm hand. It was Jonah's, returning to her side. I won't let go, he vowed through gritted teeth, defiance radiating from him. But as the shadows converged, blurring the lines of friend and foe, Mara wondered if unity alone could withstand the onslaught. As the storm raged around them, she realized that she was faced with a choice. Her next move would determine everything. With the chilling proclamation hanging in the air, something deep within Mara ignited a flickering resolve mingled with a pulse of terror. As an unspeakable reality loomed closer, she could either stand tall against the storm or succumb, crumbling under the weight of what was coming. What would she choose? The chapel erupted into chaos. Shadows twisted and lunged, eager to ensnare every ounce of fear woven into the hearts of the villagers. The air thickened with despair, but in that storm, Mara felt something shift within her. A fire ignited, fueled by the connections that bound her to the others as they faced their shared darkness together. Together, she shouted, her voice slicing through the fray, ringing clear like a bell. We will confront our fears and our pain together. Her words struck a chord, reverberating through the frightened crowd. Eyes that were once filled with dread now glimmered with a newfound determination. Jonah stepped forward, squeezing Mara's hand tight enough to feel her pulse. No more running, no more hiding, he cried. His courage breathed life back into the villagers, igniting a wave of strength that surged through the chapel. The weeping woman recoiled, her malevolent grin faltering. Fools! She shrieked, her voice slicing through the night air, raw and furious. Yet, as her shadows writhed and coiled, a light began to shimmer in the center of their circle, illuminating hope flickering against the gloom. Then, something incredible happened. The spirits of the lost, once grim reminders of their past, began to swirl around them not as tormentors but as mournful souls seeking closure. They were voices pleading to be heard, reaching out with trembling hands bathed in sorrow and regret. Listen, Mara urged, her voice steady. These are our pasts, our choices, but we have the power to change what comes next. Let us honor them by speaking the truths that bind us. With that, she stepped into the center of their circle, positioning herself as a beacon against the encroaching horror. I remember the festival, the day I lost Tomas, she declared, heart pounding in her chest. I was a coward. I watched them drag him away, and I did nothing. Her confession hung heavy, but with it came a chorus of murmurs. Each villager began to share their own burden, their painful truths pouring forth like a torrent. Irina spoke of her betrayal, her sister lost to the woods forever because of greed. Elias confessed to his role in the death of a traveler, guilt spilling from him like blood. Each story built on the last, a patchwork of pain that interlocked their lives in shared sorrow. The weeping woman screamed, her form flickering, growing more desperate as the dark forces that had once seemed invincible began to shrink with each revelation. You're only creating a deeper abyss, she hissed, but a collective voice rose against her, powerful and unwavering. We are more than our fears. What was thought to be a trap turned into a resolution. Transparency pierced the shadows, washing the chapel in brilliant light. As confessions layered upon confessions, the specters began to dissolve, those twisted faces transforming, becoming peaceful as they embraced the light. A realization washed over the villagers. The act of revealing their truths diminished the power of their fears. Mara could feel relief, a weight lifting as if tangible shackles were being stripped away, allowing hope to flourish where despair had once taken root. The winds of the chapel howled like a wounded beast, desperate to reclaim its hold, but it could not prevail against the force of united hearts. As the last of the lost souls dissipated into shimmering motes of light, the weeping woman let out a hollow cry. No, you cannot erase the past. Her form swirled into a vortex of rage, her dark essence breaking apart under the weight of their courage. But Mara faced her, fierce and unwavering. We are not defined by our pasts. We choose to own our truths and forge a better future. With those words, the light within the chapel surged, encompassing them in warmth. The shadows fluttered, stilled by the bright embrace of hope, and at that moment, the weeping woman crumbled away into shadow, defeated by the unity forged in vulnerability. As the last remnants of darkness dissolved, the villagers found themselves standing hand in hand, a circle of light in the heart of that haunted chapel. They breathed deeply, the air no longer thick with fear but shimmering with a clarity that felt electric. They had triumphed, not by erasing the past but by embracing it, transforming it into a vehicle for redemption. Mara turned to face the eager, tear-streaked faces of her friends and neighbors. We faced the darkness together. Now we can rebuild. In that fragile moment, they felt something shift, layers of fear peeling away and revealing a crisp, new path before them. They left the chapel hand in hand, no longer shackled by regret, but free to honor their past and step into a future crafted from the strength of shared stories. As they walked away from the chapel, they knew they would never forget the journey they had taken together. Their village was forever changed, but so were they all, taking the promise of solidarity into an uncertain dawn. The air was fresh, and for the first time in years, beneath the dark sky twinkling with stars, the village felt alive again. But as they stepped into the night, a voice echoed softly behind them. The weeping woman lingered in the fringes, a whisper of a reminder that the shadows might always be a part of them, yet equally an invitation to remember that light could always break the darkness. Now, if you want to be part of more incredible journeys like this, you need to subscribe to the channel immediately, so you won't miss our next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now. Fuel the algorithm to keep us thriving. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this gripping conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how courage and unity can conquer fear. Your support means the world.